Picture this. New York, September 16, 1992. You're sitting in George Soros's Manhattan office at 888 7th Avenue. The Hungarian-born financier is holding a $10 billion short position against the British pound, the largest currency bet in financial history. Across the Atlantic, Bank of England Governor Robin Lee Pemberton is burning through $27 billion in a single trading session, desperately defending a currency peg that mathematics has already condemned to death. On Soros's desk, real-time feeds showing the pound hemorrhaging value despite the central bank's intervention. In his hands, a calculator that's just computed the most profitable day in hedge fund history. Here's what keeps me up at night about that September morning. Every central banker, every finance minister, every currency trader knew the European exchange rate mechanism was mathematically impossible to defend. The forensic record from that day doesn't show a surprise attack. It shows a public execution where everyone knew the outcome except the condemned. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how currency pegs die, why central banks always lose these battles, and the specific mathematical formula that killed the British pound in 1992. Not theory, not speculation. Forensic evidence from the largest currency collapse in modern history. Number 1. The arithmetic of impossibility. On September 15, 1992, the Bank of England held £4 billion in foreign currency reserves. George Soros controlled $10 billion in short positions against the pound. The mathematics were brutal. Soros could sell pounds faster than the Bank of England could buy them. The central bank was outgunned 3-1 before the battle began. Here's what blows people's minds. Bank of England documents released in 2005 show that Governor Robin Lee Pemberton knew these numbers 48 hours before Black Wednesday. Internal memos from September 14th calculate that defending the £2.78 Deutsche Mark peg would require unlimited intervention capacity. Central bank language for mathematical impossibility. Same arithmetic killed the French franc in 1993. The Banque de France spent 164 billion francs defending their Deutschmark peg over 6 months. Currency speculators, led by Soros again, controlled 400 billion francs in short positions. The central bank capitulated on August 2, 1993, after burning through 41% of France's foreign reserves. Number 2. The interest rate death spiral. September 16, 1992, 7 a.m. London time. Chancellor Norman Lamont announces an emergency interest rate increase from 10 to 12%. The pound continues falling. 2000 p.m. Rates spike to 15%. The pound falls harder. The forensic record shows why this always fails. Higher interest rates make government debt more expensive. Britain's debt to GDP ratio was 35.7% in 1992. Every 1% interest rate increase added £2, £8 billion to annual debt service. By raising rates to 15%, Lamont had just increased Britain's borrowing costs by £14 billion annually, while the currency continued depreciating. Italy learned this lesson 6 months earlier. The Banca d'Italia raised rates from 12 to 15%, defending the lira in September 1992. Result? Italy's debt service costs increased by 127 billion lira, while the currency collapsed anyway. The lira fell 30% against the Deutsche Mark despite the rate increases. Sweden's central bank tried the same arithmetic in November 1992. The Riksbank raised overnight rates to 500%, defending the krona's peg to the European currency unit. The krona fell 9% in 2 days. Sweden abandoned the peg on November 19, 1992, after the Riksbank calculated that maintaining 500% rates would bankrupt the government in 60 days. Number 3. The velocity problem. September 16, 11:43 a.m. Quantum Fund executes a £6.5 billion sale in 127 seconds through electronic trading systems. The Bank of England's intervention desk takes 8 minutes to process a £500 million purchase order through traditional channels. The speed differential was lethal. Soros could dump pounds at 340 million per minute. The Bank of England could buy pounds at 62.5 million per minute. Electronic trading had weaponized currency speculation in ways central banks couldn't match. Thailand's central bank learned this in July 1997. The Bank of Thailand spent $23 billion defending the baht against hedge fund attacks. But currency speculators were executing trades through Singapore's electronic networks at velocities the Bangkok-based central bank couldn't counter. On July 2, 1997, speculators sold 8 tumbling 8s, $2 billion worth of baht in 45 minutes. The Bank of Thailand's intervention capacity, 1 to rich 2015 thrift dollars through manual processes. Number 4. The credibility collapse. At 7:30 p.m. on September 16th, Chancellor Lamont announces Britain's withdrawal from the European exchange rate mechanism. The statement includes one devastating sentence. Today's events demonstrate that membership of the ERM was not sustainable. The forensic record shows this admission destroyed more than the pound. It destroyed the credibility of currency pegs globally. Within 18 months, similar attacks killed the Italian lira, Spanish peseta, Portuguese escudo, Irish punt, and Swedish krona. Argentina's peso board understood this lesson in 2001. President Fernando de la Rua and Economy Minister Domingo Cavallo watched the British pound collapse and calculated that Argentina's $95 billion in foreign debt made their currency board even more vulnerable. Internal Argentine Treasury documents from October 1992 show officials studying the Soros model, preparing for what they called an inevitable speculative attack. The attack came 9 years later. In December 2001, currency speculators led by hedge fund manager Paul Tudor Jones accumulated 428ers, $2 billion in short peso positions. Argentina's central bank held $14.5 billion in reserves, seemingly adequate. But Argentina's debt service required $9.7 billion annually in dollar payments. The mathematics were identical to Britain in 1992. Insufficient reserves to defend both the currency and government solvency. Number 5. The profit calculation. George Soros made $1.0 billion on September 16, 1992. His profit came from a simple calculation. Borrow pounds at £2. 78 per Deutschmark, immediately convert to Deutschmarks. Wait for the peg to break. Buy pounds back at the lower rate. Repay the loan. Keep the difference. Here's the specific arithmetic. Quantum Fund borrowed £65 billion on September 15th at the 2078 rate, immediately selling them for 1807 billion Deutschmarks. After Britain withdrew from the ERM, the pound fell to £3 per Deutschmark. Soros bought back £5 billion for 48 billion Deutschmarks. Except he only needed 33 billion marks to buy the pounds at the new rate. Profit, 745 million Deutschmarks, approximately $1.0 billion. If you're realizing that everything you thought you knew about central bank power is wrong, hit that subscribe button. This channel is Financial Forensics. We dissect the decisions that destroyed empires, bankrupted nations, and killed currencies. I analyze the specific mechanisms that create these collapses so you can recognize the patterns. It's free. Stanley Druckenmiller, Soros's lead trader, documented the same profit mechanism in Thailand, 1997. The Quantum Fund borrowed 50 billion Thai baht at 25 baht per dollar in June 1997, immediately converted to dollars. When Thailand abandoned the baht's peg on July 2nd, the currency fell to 55 baht per dollar. Profit calculation: borrowed baht cost $2 billion to repay. But Quantum only needed $909 million to buy the baht at the new rate. Profit: $1.09 billion. Number 6. The contagion effect. Britain's ERM exit triggered currency collapses across Europe within 72 hours. The Italian lira fell 15% on September 17th. The Spanish peseta dropped 8% on September 18th. The Portuguese escudo declined 12% by September 19th. The forensic record shows why this happens. Currency markets are interconnected through what economists call correlation trades. When one peg breaks, speculators immediately attack currencies with similar mathematical vulnerabilities. Mexico learned this in December 1994. The peso devaluation on December 20th triggered immediate attacks on the Brazilian real, Argentine peso, and Chilean peso. Currency speculators had studied the British pound collapse and identified identical patterns: high government debt, insufficient reserves, and unsustainable interest rates required to defend the pegs. Brazil's response was mathematically identical to Britain's failure. The Banco Central do Brasil raised interest rates from 35% to 43% in December 1994, increased foreign currency intervention, and publicly defended the real stability. Result: Brazil burned through $9.2 billion in reserves in 3 weeks before allowing the real to depreciate 35% in January 1995. Number 7. The modern parallels. Turkey, August 2018. The Turkish lira is pegged informally to maintain dollar-denominated debt service. President Erdogan refuses interest rate increases. Currency speculators accumulate $15 billion in short lira positions. The Turkish central bank holds $93 billion in reserves, but owes $467 billion in foreign currency debt. The mathematics mirror Britain 1992. Insufficient reserves relative to foreign obligations, political constraints on interest rates, and massive speculator positions. The lira fell 45% in 6 weeks. So where are we seeing these signs right now? The forensic record from currency collapses shows 4 consistent warning indicators, and 3 major economies are flashing identical signals today. Japan's debt-to-GDP ratio reached 266% in 2023, higher than any country that has successfully defended a currency peg. The Bank of Japan holds $2 trillion in foreign reserves, but owes $8 trillion in government debt. Interest rates remain artificially suppressed at 0.1%, while inflation runs at 3.2%. The mathematical gap between debt service capacity and foreign reserves matches Britain's position in September 1992. China's foreign currency reserves total $3 trillion, but foreign debt has reached $220, while property sector obligations add another $520 trillion in dollar-denominated commitments. The People's Bank of China is defending an informal yuan peg, while capital flight accelerates. In Q3 2023, Chinese individuals moved $89 billion offshore, the highest quarterly outflow since 2015. The European Central Bank faces the most complex version of this equation. Combined Eurozone government debt totals 15 trillion Eurozone government debt, 6 trillion euros, while ECB foreign reserves equal 1 trillion euro. Individual member states cannot devalue, cannot raise rates independently, and cannot print euros to service debt. Italy alone owes 2.8 trillion euros, 2.8, 5 times larger than the ECB's intervention capacity. The protocol from Black Wednesday gives you 7 documented conclusions. Number 1. Currency pegs fail when foreign debt exceeds central bank reserves by more than 3-to-1. This ratio predicted Britain 1992, Mexico 1994, Thailand 1997, Argentina 2001, and Turkey 2018. Number 2. Interest rate defense accelerates collapse by increasing government debt service costs. Every central bank that raised rates above 20% to defend a peg has failed within 90 days. Number 3. Electronic trading allows speculators to sell currencies faster than central banks can buy them. Velocity differentials make intervention mathematically impossible. Number 4. One currency peg failure triggers attacks on similar economies within 72 hours. Contagion is automatic when mathematical vulnerabilities are identical. Number 5. Political constraints on interest rates guarantee speculative attack success. Central banks cannot raise rates high enough to defend pegs when governments face debt service crises. Number 6. Warning signs appear 18 to 24 months before collapse. Foreign debt acceleration, reserve depletion, and capital flight provide precise timing indicators. Number 7. Post-collapse currency values stabilize at levels that make foreign debt sustainable. Market mathematics, not political decisions, determine the new equilibrium. Picture this. September 16, 2024, 32 years after Black Wednesday. You're watching real-time currency data on your screen. The same mathematical patterns that killed the British pound are flashing red across 3 major economies. The question isn't whether George Soros broke the Bank of England. The question is whether you'll recognize the arithmetic before the next central bank burns through its reserves defending mathematics. Subscribe so you don't miss the forensic breakdown of which currency is next. And tell me in the comments, Which central bank do you think is most vulnerable right now?